The vastness of space was a playground for the alien empire, stretching across countless planets and galaxies. Their fleet, an unstoppable force, moved with purpose through the stars. They had conquered planets far beyond Earth's reach, leaving their mark on every world they touched. To them, Earth was just another small, insignificant dot in the galaxy. They saw it as primitive, stuck in the past with outdated technology and an unremarkable military. The aliens scoffed at the idea of such a tiny planet posing any threat to their empire. One afternoon, in the heart of the alien command center, the fleet's highest-ranking officers gathered for a meeting. These officers, known for their pride and confidence, were about to discuss their next conquest. Their laughter filled the room as they debated how easy it would be to crush the humans. The thought of Earth's defenses made them chuckle. "A planet full of weak creatures with no real weapons," said the fleet commander, his voice dripping with arrogance. "They can't even imagine the kind of power we possess. This will be the easiest conquest we've ever had." Another officer chimed in, shaking his head in disbelief. "Their technology is centuries behind ours. Their weapons, primitive, they still use outdated missiles and have no real understanding of advanced combat strategies. This will be over before it even begins." They continued to mock the humans, convinced that Earth would fall without a fight. The aliens believed that humanity was too divided, too weak to defend itself. How could a species that fought among itself, struggling with war, poverty, and politics, stand against a mighty empire that had wiped out entire civilizations? Outside the meeting, on the other side of the galaxy, Earth's own fate was in the hands of a few who knew the truth. While the aliens laughed and planned their attack, the human leaders were quietly working on something that would surprise the invaders, far beneath the surface. In a hidden underground base, a secret project was underway. The world's most brilliant scientists, engineers, and military strategists had come together with one goal: to build a fleet capable of defending Earth from the most advanced forces in the universe. It wasn't just a defensive project. It was a plan to show the universe that Earth was not as weak as it seemed. For years, the project had been kept a secret. Only a handful of people knew about the enormous space fleet being built beneath the surface. The world's governments, distracted by their own problems, had no idea that humanity was on the verge of a technological breakthrough. In those dark, hidden labs, scientists were creating advanced ships, weapons, and defenses. They were building a fleet capable of standing toe-to-toe with the alien empire that had grown too comfortable in its arrogance. One of the lead engineers, Dr. Samuel Green, stood before a holographic map of Earth. He ran his hand through his hair and sighed. He knew that the moment the aliens set their sights on Earth, there would be no time to prepare. The fleet had to be ready, and it had to be powerful. But most of all, it had to be a surprise. "This fleet will be our answer to the alien empire," he said to his team. "We can't let them know what we've built. We have to move fast." Dr. Green's voice was filled with determination. He understood the risks, but he also knew the stakes were higher than ever. The fate of the entire human race depended on this hidden fleet, and they couldn't afford to fail. That as the aliens continued to mock Earth's defenses, they remained blissfully unaware of the storm that was brewing. The human fleet, with its advanced technology and state-of-the-art weaponry, was being assembled in silence. The aliens thought that humanity's greatest strength lay in their numbers and their resources, but they didn't realize that Earth's greatest strength was its spirit. The spirit to fight back, to stand up to the impossible, and to prove the universe wrong. Back on the alien mothership, the commanders finished their meeting and laughed one last time. The invasion of Earth was scheduled to begin in a matter of days. They couldn't wait to bring their massive fleet into the solar system, crush Earth's defenses, and add another world to their ever-expanding empire. "The humans won't even know what hit them," said the commander with a smirk. "This is going to be easy." But little did they know, the human fleet was already ready, and their prideful laughter would soon be replaced by shock and disbelief. That as the alien forces prepared to set their plans in motion, a signal went out from the hidden base on Earth. The fleet was ready. Humanity had been underestimated, and the time to show the galaxy just how wrong the aliens were was almost upon them. The stage was set. Earth, once thought to be a weak, defenseless planet, was about to show the universe its true power. The aliens would soon learn that underestimating humanity would be their biggest mistake. Humanity had always been underestimated, dismissed by countless others across the stars as too fragile to ever become a true power. But in the shadows, something was quietly building. Unknown to the alien empire, humanity had been preparing for the impossible. As the alien ships inched closer to Earth, ready to strike with overwhelming force. Earth's hidden project was already poised to deliver the biggest surprise of the galaxy. Deep underground, far from prying eyes, a team of the world's brightest minds worked tirelessly. They weren't concerned with the petty squabbles of governments or the distractions of daily life. Their mission was much greater. A single goal, one that could save or doom humanity, drove them to create a fleet capable of standing up to the alien empire. The project had started years ago, long before the alien threat became real. When whispers of an alien invasion began, the world's leaders had dismissed it as impossible. But a select few, in the highest levels of military and scientific circles, knew better. They had seen the signals, the strange, unmistakable signs that a threat was on its way. It was then that they began to build in secrecy. Far from the eyes of the public, the base, known only to a few, was the heart of the human resistance. Hidden beneath layers of rock and metal, it was a fortress no one could detect. Inside, humanity's finest minds worked relentlessly on building the fleet ships designed with advanced weaponry, stealth capabilities, and technology far beyond anything the alien empire could imagine. Each ship was a masterpiece, capable of taking down the best of alien forces. As the days passed, the project gained speed. In the darkened halls, engineers and scientists were beginning to understand just how far ahead they had come. Every challenge they encountered, every doubt, was met with unwavering resolve. There were no shortcuts, no easy solutions. The aliens had underestimated humanity's determination, and that mistake would cost them dearly. Dr. Alina Richards, one of the chief engineers, stood in front of a massive holographic display, watching the plans for the final stage of the fleet's construction. She could barely believe how far they had come. Just a few months ago, they had been scraping by, facing impossible odds. Now, there was a fleet. Not just a fleet of warships, but a new age of human warfare. The ships were sleek, their hulls lined with energy shields, and their engines capable of speeds faster than any alien vessel had ever encountered. "We're almost there," Dr. Richards whispered to herself, a mixture of pride and anxiety in her voice. She knew this was humanity's one shot, and if they failed, Earth would be lost. But she wasn't the only one who felt this pressure. Commander James Wright, the man in charge of the fleet's strategy, stood just outside the control room, staring out at the night sky. Earth's quiet surface had always seemed so peaceful, but beneath it, chaos was waiting. The aliens, with their arrogance and overwhelming strength, were coming. He had no illusions about the danger they faced. Yet, in the silence of the command center, he felt a sense of calm. Humanity was ready. They just needed to hold their ground long enough to strike. "You're not getting away with it," he muttered to himself, clenching his fists. Not this time. In another part of the base, the warships were finally nearing completion. The most advanced of them all, the Titan-class flagship, stood proudly among the fleet. It was unlike anything the alien empire had ever seen. With its enormous weapons array and impenetrable armor, it could take on the alien forces head-on, and for the first time, humanity had the means to defend itself. But as the human fleet stood ready, the alien invaders were blissfully unaware. Their arrogance was their downfall. They still believed they would sweep through Earth's defenses in mere hours, perhaps days at most. They didn't know that the humans had been building a force far beyond their expectations, and by the time the aliens realized, it would be too late. When the call came that the fleet was ready, Commander Wright knew it was time to act. The hidden fleet beneath the Earth's surface was no longer a secret. With all systems go, humanity's first true fleet was preparing to launch. The fleet would emerge from its underground vault, ascend through the atmosphere, and make its way to meet the alien invasion force head-on. The human ships, armed and ready, would meet the aliens in a battle for survival. "It's time to make history," Commander Wright said, his voice cold with determination. "Let's show them what Earth can do." As the ships began to ascend from their hidden base, they were a sight unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The dark shapes of the warships slowly rose into the atmosphere, their engines roaring with power. The alien fleet, still focused on their easy victory, had no idea what was about to hit them. On the alien mothership, the commanders received the first signal that something was wrong. A blip appeared on their radar ship, then another and another. The alien fleet's commanders couldn't believe their eyes. This wasn't supposed to be possible. Earth was supposed to be weak, helpless, vulnerable. Yet, here they were, human ships, emerging from the depths of the planet, rising to challenge them. "This isn't possible," one of the alien officers muttered, his voice filled with disbelief. But it was happening. The humans were not the weak, primitive species the aliens had thought. No, Earth had been hiding its greatest strength, its willpower. The aliens were about to face the full force of humanity's anger, its courage, and its capacity for survival. Humanity had been underestimated, but the alien invaders were about to learn that underestimating Earth was the biggest mistake they could ever make. The moment had arrived. The alien empire, so sure of its invincibility, was about to face a reality that would shake it to its core. The human fleet, which had been hidden away beneath the Earth's surface, now emerged into space like a tidal wave of power. The sleek warships, designed with cutting-edge technology and fortified with unimaginable strength, rose through Earth's atmosphere. The silent engines hummed with power as the ships ascended, their weapons silently preparing for the conflict ahead. Commander James Wright stood at the helm of the flagship, Titan. His eyes were locked on the holographic display before him, showing the alien fleet on the move toward Earth. His heart pounded with a mixture of fear and excitement. The battle would soon begin, and everything they had worked for the endless hours, the sleepless nights, would be put to the test. There was no turning back now. As the human fleet broke free from Earth's atmosphere, the alien ships, thousands of miles away, had just begun to detect the strange new presence. At first, they thought it was a glitch. The radar systems on their ships beeped frantically, showing multiple objects moving at incredible speed. The reports were passed along quickly to the alien command center, where the officers stared at the data in confusion. It couldn't be. The humans were not supposed to have this kind of technology. In the alien command center, the fleet commander, Zarak, slammed his fist onto the control panel in front of him. "Impossible," he bellowed, his voice filled with disbelief. "We were told Earth was weak. How is this possible? How are they even able to launch these ships?" The other officers were silent, staring at the screens in shock. There was no mistaking it. The Earth fleet was real, and it was coming for them. The ships glided through space like nothing the aliens had ever encountered. They weren't just a threat, they were a serious one. "Prepare to engage," Zarak ordered, though his voice trembled slightly with uncertainty. "We will crush them as planned. There's no way they can stand against us." But deep down, he knew there was a possibility they were wrong. He had never expected this. Back in the human fleet, the atmosphere was tense but resolute. Commander Wright could feel the gravity of the moment. He knew this wasn't just about winning a battle, it was about survival. About showing the universe that Earth was not a weak, defenseless planet. It was about proving to every civilization out there that humanity was no longer the prey, but the predator. He glanced over at Dr. Elena Richards, who stood beside him, watching the battle unfold on her own screen. "We're ready," Wright said, his voice steady but filled with purpose. "We do this now, or we never do it." Elena nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "This is our time." The first wave of alien ships was now within range. The human fleet's stealth systems had allowed them to remain undetected for far longer than expected, but now the time had come to reveal themselves fully. The Titan's weapons charged up with a low hum, glowing a dangerous red. Wright's hand hovered over the controls, ready to give the order. As the alien ships entered range, he pressed the button. A barrage of energy blasts shot from the human ships, cutting through the vacuum of space. The alien ships tried to retaliate, but their weapons were slow, inefficient compared to the speed and precision of the human fleet. The first few alien vessels were instantly destroyed, their hulls ripped apart by the unrelenting power of Earth's newly designed weapons. Zarak watched in horror as his ships exploded one after another. His forces, who had once been so confident, were now in chaos. His superior fleet was being torn apart by a force they had no understanding of. That humans had taken them by surprise, and there was no stopping the tide now. "We need to regroup," one of Zarak's officers shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "Their ships are too advanced. They're overwhelming us." Zarak's face turned pale. "No, we cannot retreat. We will show them what true power is." But it was too late. The human fleet had already gained the upper hand. The Titan, the flagship of humanity's pride, led the charge, destroying alien ship after alien ship. The humans had been underestimated, and now, they were making the aliens pay for their mistake. On the Titan, Commander Wright watched the chaos unfold on his display. The explosions, the energy blasts, the devastation. It was all happening so fast. But despite the overwhelming odds, he felt a surge of hope. Humanity was fighting back with everything it had. They weren't going down without a fight. He glanced to his side at the control panel where Dr. Richards stood, her fingers flying across the keys as she coordinated the fleet's movements. "It's working," she said, her voice filled with quiet amazement. "We've breached their defenses. But even as the first wave of aliens fell, Zalrek's forces regrouped. The alien empire was known for its ruthlessness, and Zalrak was no exception. He wasn't going to lose this battle so easily. His remaining fleet moved into position, preparing to retaliate with their full force. "We need to be ready for the second wave," Commander Wright said, his eyes narrowing as he watched the alien fleet rearranging. "They're not giving up that easily." As the human ships reloaded, readying for the next round of battle, the alien fleet approached once again. This time, the aliens had adjusted their tactics, launching a coordinated attack with greater force. They had underestimated humanity's will to fight, but they weren't about to make that mistake again. The space around Earth was a battlefield. The once peaceful sky was now filled with the fire of war, the clash of ships, and the screams of destruction. Humanity had made its stand, and there was no going back now. The tide of battle had turned, but the war was far from over. Humanity, once mocked and underestimated, was now locked in an all-out struggle for survival. The alien fleet, although shocked by the sudden onslaught, was far from defeated. Commander Zalrak, though shaken, had rallied his forces, adjusting his strategies in response to humanity's unexpected strength. Earth's fleet, having gained an early advantage, now found itself facing the true power of the alien empire. On the Titan, Commander Wright stood tall in front of the holographic map, his gaze fixed on the chaotic battlefield. His hands clenched the rail in front of him as explosions lit up the void of space. Alien ships surged forward, their weapons charging, ready to unleash everything they had. The time for surprises was over. The aliens were no longer underestimating humanity. They were fighting for their lives, and they were angry. "We can't let up now," Wright said, his voice steady despite the tension. "This is the moment that defines us. Hold your ground, and we'll show them what Earth can do." The battle was far from one-sided. The first wave had been decisive, but the alien forces quickly regrouped, more determined than ever. Their ships, built for power and destruction, came at humanity with all their might. Massive energy blasts lit up the dark expanse of space as both fleets exchanged fire. The human fleet, still largely intact, retaliated with precision, but the alien fleet's numbers and firepower were overwhelming. It wasn't just a battle of ships, it was a battle of wills. As the alien forces pressed forward, Dr. Alina Richards, stationed at the weapons control station, worked tirelessly to optimize the fleet's defenses. "We need more firepower," she muttered to herself, her fingers racing across the control panel. She wasn't just strategizing. She was living the battle, calculating every move in real time. Each alien strike was an opportunity, each retaliation a test of Earth's resilience. On the other side, Zalrek's eyes burned with the fire of an ancient hatred. "They think they can defeat us so easily," he spat, glaring at the human ships that had so far held their ground. His fleet had suffered significant losses, but it was still a force to be reckoned with. With a deep breath, he issued his command: "Fire everything we have. We'll show them what true power is." The alien ships' weapons lit up the space around them, releasing a barrage of deadly blasts. Earth's fleet responded in kind, their weapons firing in rapid succession. The sky turned to fire, with explosions ringing out in every direction. Each ship, whether human or alien, fought with everything it had. The human fleet's advanced shields absorbed most of the damage, but not without cost. One of the human ships, a sleek destroyer named Vanguard, took a direct hit, its outer hull buckling under the force of the alien weapon. The ship's lights flickered before going dark. "Vanguard is down," a crew member shouted from the comm station. "We've lost contact." Commander Wright's jaw tightened. Losing one of their ships was a heavy blow, but there was no time to mourn. His crew had to remain focused. "Keep pushing forward," he ordered, his voice cold and unyielding. "We have to hold the line." As the battle raged on, the alien fleet unleashed a new tactic, flanking maneuvers. Smaller, faster ships darted around the human fleet, attacking from unexpected angles. Their precision was deadly, and the human fleet's defenses were starting to show signs of strain. The Titan, the flagship, became the focal point of the conflict. Alien ships zeroed in on the massive warship, hoping to take it down and break the human line. On board the Titan, the crew worked in perfect unison. The ship's cannons fired rapidly, sending wave after wave of destructive energy toward the oncoming enemy. The weapons systems were relentless, but even as they struck alien ships, the enemy retaliated with equal force. It was a stalemate, one that neither side could afford to lose. "Commander, we've got a direct hit incoming," Dr. Richards shouted over the din of alarms. The shields are weakening. Wright's eyes never left the screen in front of him. Evasive maneuvers. Now, the Titan swerved to the left, narrowly avoiding the alien blast, but the shockwave rocked the ship. The crew was thrown off balance, and several of the consoles exploded in bursts of fire. Sparks flew, and the air was filled with the acrid smell of burnt electronics. But Commander Wright didn't flinch. He barked orders, his voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. "Damage control, report," he demanded. "We're not going down now, not like this." A young officer, his face pale with fear, hurried to his side. "The shields are down to 40%, Commander. We can't take another direct hit like that." "Then we don't, right?" said, his voice full of steel. "We fight smarter." He turned back to the screen, watching as alien ships closed in on the Titan once again. It was clear now that the battle wasn't just about weapons or numbers. It was about strategy, and humanity had the upper hand. The alien forces had underestimated Earth's capacity to adapt and fight back. They had underestimated Earth's will to survive. "Prepare for counterstrike," Wright ordered. "All ships, form a defensive perimeter around the Titan." As the human ships regrouped, the alien fleet was thrown off balance. They had come with the expectation of a swift victory, but now they were engaged in a prolonged struggle. Humanity was not going down without a fight, and as the alien forces hesitated, even for just a moment, it was all the humans needed. The Titan's cannons powered up again, charging with energy, and the battle raged on. Each strike was a reminder that Earth, though small, was not to be underestimated. The fight for Earth had only just begun. The battle had reached a fever pitch. What had started as an alien invasion of overwhelming confidence had now become a fight for survival. A war where humanity was fighting not just to defend its home, but to prove to the entire galaxy that Earth was no longer the weak, defenseless planet it had once been. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, stood firm against the alien onslaught. Commander Zalrak, leader of the invaders, had never expected this. He had underestimated Earth, and now, the cost of his mistake was unfolding before his eyes. On board the Titan, Commander Wright was a picture of composure. Despite the chaos surrounding him, his face remained calm, his mind sharp. His crew, though tired and battered, was fighting with every ounce of their being. The ship shuddered under the impact of enemy fire, but the crew didn't falter. Every explosion, every flash of light, only fueled their determination. "This isn't over," Wright muttered, his gaze fixed on the view ahead. The alien ships were circling, regrouping for another assault. They had lost many of their smaller vessels, but the alien capital ships remained formidable. The next few minutes would determine whether humanity would win or lose. "Commander, we've lost communication with the Vanguard and Artemis." A voice came through the comm system. The young officer at the communications desk looked up, anxiety visible on his face. "They're gone." Wright clenched his fists. The loss of 2 ships in one day was a blow to morale, but he had no time to dwell on it. The battle was far from over, and if they were to stand a chance, they needed to turn the tide quickly. "Regroup the fleet," Wright commanded, his voice steady. "We fight together, or we fall apart. Get those ships in position. It's now, or never." As the human ships shifted into a tight formation, the alien fleet prepared for another push. Zalrak's face was twisted in frustration, his eyes narrowing as he saw the human ships aligning. His fleet was not what it had been before. The losses had mounted, and now his pride was on the line. Earth had proven itself more resilient than he had ever imagined, and he could no longer afford to underestimate them. He raised his hand, signaling his officers, "Converge on the Titan. We take them down now, or we leave this sector in disgrace." His fleet surged forward, their weapons glowing with energy. The alien ships fired relentlessly, their blasts striking the Titan's shields, sending shockwaves through the ship. Inside, the crew fought to keep the ship operational, the constant barrage of fire taking its toll on both the vessel and its people. Yet, despite the pressure, there was no retreat. Not today. The human fleet returned fire with newfound vigor. As the aliens closed in, Earth's ships unleashed everything they had. Energy cannons, torpedoes, and plasma beams ripped through the void, tearing through alien armor with brutal efficiency. The alien forces, though powerful, were no longer the unstoppable juggernauts they had once been. Every alien ship they lost was a signal to the rest of their fleet. Earth wasn't just fighting back, they were fighting to win. On the bridge of the Titan, Wright watched as the alien ships began to falter. The reports came in, one after another. The Vanguard might be gone, but the Mercury and Odyssey were still holding their ground. Their firepower, was enough to keep the alien capital ships at bay, and the momentum was slowly shifting in humanity's favor. "It's working," Elena Richards said, looking over at Wright. "We've got them on the defensive," but Wright knew better than to celebrate too soon. The aliens were cornered, but they were not finished. They still had power in numbers, and if they were given the chance, they could retaliate with full force. "We push them now," Wright said, his voice grim. "We finish this." He issued the command for the human fleet to press forward. The ships surged into action, their guns firing in perfect unison. For the first time in the battle, the aliens were retreating. Their formations were breaking, their defenses collapsing. The human fleet was relentless, refusing to allow them any respite. But just as it seemed the tide had fully turned, a new threat emerged. From the depths of the alien fleet, a massive warship the size of a moon. Its dark hull gleamed with energy, its weapons array far superior to anything the human fleet had encountered. The Titan and the remaining ships were immediately drawn into a new battle, one that would determine the outcome of the entire conflict. Zalrak's voice came through the comms again, distorted with rage and defiance. "You think you've won? This is far from over. You will bow before us." The alien flagship unleashed a barrage of deadly energy blasts, cutting through the human fleet's defenses. For the first time, the Titan felt the brunt of the attack. Its shields flickered, weakening under the pressure. "Damage report," Wright shouted, his face grim. "The shields are at 10%. Commander," a crew member replied urgently. "We can't take much more of this." Wright's mind raced. He knew that this was the final push. If they didn't stop this ship now, the entire fleet could fall. It was time for humanity's final move. "Launch everything we've got," Wright ordered, his voice unwavering. "All remaining fighters, all remaining torpedoes. We end this here." The remaining ships, battered and bruised, readied themselves for the final assault. Every ounce of energy, every last weapon, was deployed. The alien flagship, larger and more heavily armed, was vulnerable in its desperation. The human fleet struck with everything they had: plasma torpedoes, laser cannons, and fighter ships, all launching in a synchronized barrage. And then, as if time slowed down, the alien flagship exploded in a blinding flash of light. The shockwave rippled through the battle, shaking both the human and alien fleets to their core. Zalrak's forces scattered, their leadership shattered in an instant. The human fleet, battered but victorious, watched in awe as the once alien ship crumbled to dust. Lark's voice was no longer heard. His empire had failed, and humanity had stood its ground. The alien forces, now leaderless and broken, began to retreat in full force, their pride crushed under the weight of their own arrogance. Humanity had won. The galaxy would never again underestimate Earth. The aftermath of the battle left the cold expanse of space eerily silent, the once chaotic battlefield now a haunting reflection of the struggle that had just unfolded. Humanity had emerged victorious, but the victory was not without its cost. The alien fleet, once confident and unyielding, was now scattered and broken, their pride shattered across the vastness of space. The few remaining alien ships that survived limped away, retreating into the void, their commanders retreating into the unknown, humiliated and defeated. But for those aboard Earth's fleet, the victory was hard-earned. The Titan, though still intact, bore the scars of battle. Its hull was marked by the blasts it had endured, the once pristine exterior now scarred by the force of alien weaponry. Inside, the crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage, each member focused on their task but with an undeniable sense of relief in their hearts. They had done the impossible. Earth had stood against an overwhelming force and had proven its strength. The war wasn't over, but this battle had been won, and for the first time in centuries, humanity had secured its place in the galaxy. Commander Wright stood on the bridge of the Titan, staring out at the empty space beyond. The once imposing alien fleet had now retreated, leaving only the debris of their failed invasion scattered across the stars. He exhaled a long breath, the weight of the battle finally starting to settle in. His ship, his crew, they had all fought with everything they had, and they had succeeded. But the victory was bittersweet. The loss of the Vanguard and Artemis weighed heavily on him. Friends had been lost, ships destroyed, lives sacrificed. But in the end, Earth had not only survived, it had triumphed, Commander Elena Richards said, her voice breaking through his thoughts. "We've received a transmission from the United Nations. They're calling it a victory, an unprecedented triumph for Earth." Wright nodded silently. He knew what this victory meant. It wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just another insignificant speck on the cosmic map. Earth was strong, resilient, and ready to stand up for itself against any force, no matter how powerful. The defeat of the alien fleet was proof that, when pushed to the edge, humanity could rise to the occasion. Alina turned to face him, but there's something else, something strange. The aliens, well, their retreat. They're leaving behind something, a message. Wright raised an eyebrow. A message. Alina nodded. We intercepted a transmission just before their ships disappeared. It's encrypted, but the pattern, it doesn't look like a standard message. It's almost like a warning. A warning. Wright's thoughts raced. The alien fleet was beaten. What could they possibly want to warn humanity about now? Get it decoded, he ordered, his voice firm. Let's see what they've got to say. As Alina worked to decrypt the transmission, the rest of the bridge crew continued their duties. But there was a noticeable shift in the air. The tension of the battle had not yet completely lifted, and while they had emerged victorious, the question lingered. Was this really over? After several minutes, Elena's voice broke the silence. It's decoded, Commander. It's strange. It's not just a warning, it's an ultimatum. Wright's heart skipped a beat. An ultimatum. Elena turned her screen toward him. The transmission says, humanity has been spared ... for now. The Empire does not forgive. You've defied the will of the galaxy, and you will answer for it. The Empire will return, stronger than before. Your victory is temporary, but the consequences will be eternal. Wright felt the weight of those words settle in his chest. It wasn't over. This was just the beginning. The alien empire had been defeated, but it was clear they weren't going to let this humiliation stand without retribution. What does it mean? Elena asked quietly. It means we're not safe, Wright replied. We've made an enemy of the most powerful force in the galaxy. This is far from over. The Empire will return, and when they do, we'll have to be ready. He turned to face the crew. This victory may feel sweet now, but we can't afford to rest on our laurels. We've won this battle, but we've made a dangerous enemy. Earth will need to prepare, and we need to be ready for the day they return. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. No one spoke, but the weight of Wright's words hung in the air. The alien fleet may have retreated, but it was clear they would be backhand when they did. They would come with a vengeance. The Earth fleet had proven itself in this battle, but humanity's victory was not without its sobering reality. It was no time to celebrate, no time to rest. The Empire had warned them, and now, Earth had to prepare for the fight of its life. Days passed in the aftermath. As the Titan and the rest of Earth's fleet began to make repairs and assess the damage, the alien retreat was not a sign of surrender, but of regrouping. Commander Wright knew this. He had seen this type of response before. It wasn't the first time a defeated enemy had promised to return, and it wouldn't be the last. Meanwhile, the world watched as the news of humanity's victory spread across the globe. People celebrated in the streets, their faces filled with hope and pride. Earth had faced its greatest challenge and had overcome it. But beneath the joy and the celebrations, there was an undercurrent of fear. The message from the aliens was clear. This was just the beginning. In the quiet of his office, Commander Wright sat alone, contemplating the future. The battle was won, but the war had just begun. Humanity had shown its strength, but it would need more than that to survive. The storm that was coming, the Empire would return, and when they did, humanity would need to be ready. Days turned into weeks, and the world slowly adjusted to the idea that humanity had won the first battle in what was now an intergalactic war. News of Earth's victory spread far and wide, and for a moment, it felt as if nothing could stop the momentum. But Commander Wright, Elena Richards, and the rest of the fleet knew better. The retreating alien ships had left behind more than just debris. They had left a promise, a threat, that would soon return to haunt Earth. The human fleet had returned to Earth's orbit, their mission complete for now. Yet the mood on the Titan was heavy with uncertainty. Even in the midst of their victory, Wright and his officers couldn't shake the feeling that they were waiting for the other shoe to drop. The aliens had promised to return, stronger than before, and they had no reason to doubt that they meant it. Inside the Titan's war room, Wright stood before a map of the galaxy, studying the coordinates of alien-controlled sectors. The alien empire had vast territories, and the fact that they had sent such a formidable force to Earth spoke volumes. They would not forget this defeat easily. Wright knew that the next encounter wouldn't be like the first. The alien fleet would come back with everything they had, and Earth would need to be prepared. Commander Elena's voice interrupted his thoughts. She stepped forward, her face etched with concern. We've analyzed the transmission from the alien fleet. There's something else, something we missed the first time. Wright raised an eyebrow, turning to face her. What is it? Alina tapped a few commands into her console, and a new transmission came up on the holographic display. This part, she said, highlighting a section of the message. It's a part of their Empire's doctrine, a warning not just for Earth, but for every other civilization in the galaxy. Wright leaned in, his interest piqued. What does it say? Elena's fingers hovered over the controls as the words from the alien message appeared on the screen. The Empire does not forgive. Earth's defiance has been marked. When the time comes, the punishment will not just be yours. The galaxy will witness the consequences. The price of resistance will be paid in full. Wright's heart sank. He had known the aliens would return, but this was different. The galaxy itself was now on the line. The consequences of humanity's defiance had reached far beyond the edge of Earth. The Empire's retribution wouldn't be isolated. It would be a demonstration to the galaxy that no civilization could challenge their might. So they're not just coming for us, Wright muttered, his voice tight with realization. They're making an example of Earth. They're going to make sure everyone else knows what happens when you defy them. Alina nodded grimly. Exactly. The Empire intends to send a message to the entire galaxy. This war, Commander, it's bigger than Earth now. It's a fight for the future of every civilization that dares to oppose them. Wright looked out the window at the stars, his mind racing. Humanity had already proven that it could stand against the alien fleet, but could they really take on an empire determined to wipe them out, and anyone else who dared to resist? Earth had no allies in this fight, and the alien empire's power was unmatched. He took a deep breath. We've fought back once, and we'll do it again. We've proven that Earth won't bow to anyone. But this time, we have to be ready for what's coming. Commander, Alina said, her voice firm, we need to start preparing for the next phase. The Empire is likely to come with a force we can't even imagine. We need to build a defense, something stronger than anything we've ever seen. Wright turned, his gaze steady. We can't afford to wait for them to come to us. We need to take the fight to them. We need to make them think twice about ever setting foot in our system again. The weight of his words hung in the air. He wasn't just talking about defense anymore. He was talking about a counterattack, about taking the fight to the very heart of the alien empire. It was a risky, dangerous idea, but the more he thought about it, the more it made sense. Earth couldn't sit back and wait for their enemies to return. Humanity needed to show the galaxy that they were a force to be reckoned with. Start the preparations, Wright said, his voice resolute. We're going to need everything we've got, and we're going to need it fast. Over the next several weeks, Earth's military command rallied its forces. Scientists, engineers, and strategists from across the globe worked day and night, developing new technologies, upgrading the fleet, and preparing defenses on a scale no one had ever seen. The United Nations, once skeptical of humanity's chances in this fight, now threw its full support behind the effort. Earth was uniting, not just for survival, but for victory. The fight was no longer just about defending their home, it was about securing their place in the universe. But even as preparations continued, the fear that hung over the fleet and the entire planet was palpable. There were no illusions now. The alien empire was ruthless. The warning had been clear. Their next move would not be one of mercy. One morning, as the crew of the Titan went about their tasks, Alina walked into Wright's office, holding a report in her hand. Her expression was unreadable. She handed him the document without a word. Wright took it, scanning the contents. Quickly, the report detailed a newly discovered alien fleet, one that was already on its way to Earth's system. The Empire wasn't wasting any time. The countdown is already starting, Wright murmured, his voice filled with resolve. They're coming, and we'll be ready. In the weeks that followed, as Earth's preparations reached their peak, the galaxy remained silent. The human fleet was ready to face whatever the alien empire could throw at them. Earth had fought once, and now they were preparing for an even bigger fight. Humanity had shown its strength, but now, the true test was on the horizon. Would they stand victorious once again, or would the alien empire finally exact its revenge? The fate of Earth, and perhaps of the entire galaxy, would soon be decided. But one thing was certain: humanity's story was far from over.